when you look at the US market, as you said, most of the teams are owned by big families or wealthy individuals or private equities. But when you come into Europe, the ownership of the team is completely different. Yes, you have more and more US private equity, especially investing into Europe, and in the UK, you have many examples with Liverpool with the Fenway Group, or Manchester United owned by the Glazers. In Italy now, there's a lot of investment from US firm with many private equities that own AC Milan, Inter, and some of the big teams. But there are very interesting examples, like, for example, in Germany, there's a rule that no private owner can own more than 50% of a club. The 50 is the 50 plus 1 rule, where 51% of the club needs to be owned by the fans. Mm-hmm. And in Spain, I'm a Real Madrid fan, and Real Madrid doesn't have an owner. It has 80,000 members that own one share, and every 4 years you run for elections, and it's a very political thing. And you have that in Real Madrid, you have that in Barcelona, you have in many football clubs that are actually owned by the fans, but the fans in reality are not participating on the economic incentives of
because so basically you do have sort of fan ownership. You have I wouldn't say fan ownership in Europe, and it's specific to Germany and Spain, right? Because anywhere where there's not a rule, that's long gone away. What you have is not so much fan ownership, but fan collectives. So, for example, in Real Madrid, you can't really buy and sell the shares, from my understanding. No. The shares do not freely trade.
No. No, you have actually, if you want to become a member, you have there's a waiting list.
It's a fixed thing.
It's a fixed thing.
Yeah, and so the problem with that is everyone's not experiencing the collective upside of Real Madrid's success. And so, you don't have and this is why the elections are a disaster in Real Madrid and Barcelona as well. But it's
other than the clout of saying that you're involved, there's absolutely no reason to try to improve Real Madrid as a Real Madrid fan or quote shareholder, because they're not really shares. It's some collective scheme. And I think what we've seen historically is that collectives, which is sort of a communist concept, are not very good at increasing the value of an asset. And so you sort of have two opposite poles inside European sports right now and in America. You have families, private equity, and then these collectives. And by the way, we have a collective in America as well. I don't know if you know this. The Green Bay Packers.
Oh, really?
Which are one of the most valuable NFL teams. Is a very similar setup to Real Madrid.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
It's owned by the fans.
But not really owned.
Yeah.
It's not equity. It's, more of a membership.
Yeah.
Which is also why the Green Bay Packers play in sub-freezing temperatures in an open-air stadium. Because they have never been able to raise the investment to build a roof. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Well,
in Real Madrid, the case is that we had for many years, a president that was a very strong businessman, and he has driven the value of the club forward in terms of, you can argue his policy many things, but in terms of economic valuation and how he's been managing the club from a financial perspective, there's nothing you can tell, because at the moment is the most, recently the Deloitte Money Football League report was launched, and Real Madrid is the football club that is making more revenue. Yeah. So it's very interesting what you are saying about the ownership and how blockchain can enable a more effective ownership of the club to the models that we have in Europe.
You can generally think of these crypto protocols and networks as orchestration. It's collective economic orchestration. And what I mean by that is, one of the big challenges in human life is, how do we get a bunch of people to cooperate towards one common goal?
Yeah.
Right. And a crypto network enables people to do that, one, very efficiently, and two, with very little trust of each other. And the efficiency was super important because, I don't know how many fans Real Madrid has now, but I remember reading somewhere that at one point that Manchester United had over 200 million fans.
Yeah.
Right. if you think about like, okay, if Real Madrid probably is something like that, probably 150, 200 million fans, right? Yeah. But there's only 80,000 collective like memberships, right? Yeah. One of the coolest things they could do is make the 200 million fans owners of Real Madrid. But how would you administer having 200 million members or owners rather than 80,000? It'd be really difficult. Unless you used a crypto protocol or a blockchain where you could sort of automate all of this at a smart contract level. Yeah. It wouldn't be difficult at all.
And it's interesting because I started actually my career at Real Madrid when I finished my university. It was my first work experience. And it's incredible how important, so if you think about Real Madrid, it's a global brand. But when you think about their communication and the way they do things, it's incredible how influenced they are about the local press. Because at the end of the day,
80,000
the president needs to make these 80,000 people, 80,000 fans happier than anyone else because they are the ones that vote every 4 years and then make sure that...
but they're probably not the ones that drive the economic success of the club.
No, probably not, because now marketing, so for sure, Fly Emirates is not paying millions just to talk to these 80,000 fans. And talking about sponsorship, you have a really successful partnership with Dallas Cowboys. I love to understand talking more from the brand's perspective. When you approach sports, what is the things that you're looking for as a brand? What is the impact that sponsoring a sport club like the Cowboys, one of the biggest franchises in the world, brings to blockchain.com?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things you're looking at. There's like tangible and intangible value. On the tangible value front, like you're looking to buy the most amount of impressions for the least amount of dollars. So one of the reasons that, folks want to prioritize, want to chase after like a Cowboy sponsorship, and it was very competitive at the time actually, is that they play on Thanksgiving and Christmas on national TV in America at home. So if you're a stadium sponsor of the Cowboys, you know that you're going on national TV regardless of how good they are twice a year. And they're always pretty good. Yeah, that's the other thing. You don't want to sponsor a team that's like bad. You want to sponsor a team that's consistently above average. And they are. You also know that they're going to play on national TV twice. They also have the most fans of any NFL franchise. So they have, I think it's by an order of 3 times. Why? Texas is big. And they have a lot of fans in Mexico. So it's just kind of that's how it broke down. But they're going to get featured more on Red Zone, which is kind of a strange concept to people in Europe. But ESPN, the main sports show in America, has this show called Red Zone, where they just show people going into the end zone, scores. And so, the Cowboys are always, because they have the most fan, all of their scores are going to, recaps are going to make it there. So you're going to get more views. So if you look at how many views, how many times is the Tampa Bay or Jacksonville Jaguars or the Bears going to go on national television versus the Cowboys, it's a huge, huge gap. So that's sort of quantifiable. And then there's just sort of intangibles. You as a brand want to be associated with another premier brand, tier 1 to tier 1. So, with Emirates, right, in Real Madrid, Emirates is a tier 1 airline. They want to be with a tier 1 football team. Yeah. Very similar to us, we were a tier 1 company, we want to be with a tier 1 football team. And so and in this case, the Cowboys are the biggest team. If we went out and we sponsored, say a random club from, a random part of France or a random part of Italy, everybody would be like, whoa, why? They'd be like, is Peter from there? This local team? And I would have loved.
I think you'd be surprised how many times the sponsorship decision in sport, especially, comes from this.
No, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all,
and,
because people sponsor the F1. And the only reason to sponsor the F1 is if you're a massive fan of the F1, because the numbers never work. And I'm a huge F1 fan. Yeah. And so I would have loved for the numbers to work for the F1, but the F1 quantifiably doesn't work. And so that's I know exactly how much money is spent because people are fans of something.
Yeah.
It's called every sponsorship at the F1. But yeah, it's for us it was it was a quantifiable thing, and then also an intangible thing as well. And it was partly driven by the fact that we historically have a big and embedded user base in Europe and the UK, and we wanted to expand into the US, and so we did that partnership right at the beginning of our expansion into the US.
Okay, so it was a key component of your growth strategy into the US. That was the main goal when you were thinking about the sponsorship.
And you have to line those things up, right? You have to look at it has to all match up to be successful.
Yeah.
I think the other thing and the last thing I would say is, when people talk to me about doing sports sponsorships and what would I look for or optimize around, you're going to end up spending a lot of time there. Clients want to go there. Investors want to go there. You're going to end up spending a lot of time in that stadium. You really should pick a sponsor that you actually enjoy seeing. And I don't just mean the game. I mean, that you enjoy seeing the GM, that you enjoy seeing this, CEO or president of Real Madrid. In this case, I have a really good relationship with the Jones family. I have a lot of respect for Jerry and Steven as entrepreneurs. And it's a joy to go see them and to be in Dallas, and they have really a phenomenal hosting ability. They are, and there's something I would say about them that's fairly unique. They're always amazing at helping us host people at the games, staying in touch, really being phenomenal partners. And you're going to spend so much time there that you really got to pick a place that you're happy about going and a team to work with that you're happy about doing things together. Because it's people talk about sports sponsorships, and I really think that they're more like sports partnerships. You are sending them money, but you're trying to achieve a common objective together.
Yeah.
And you got to really like your partners, or it's going to be a long deal.